back-to-work process by bringing in a job centre advisor to his surgery to help his patients.
I have no problem with having a rigorous medical assessment done in a supportive fashion. But I think if you have a slipshod one done, as it appears to be anecdotally, that's unfair for the people going through the system. But I think sometimes when someone's clearly got severe mental health problems, if they're waiting to have heart bypass surgery or whatever, these people shouldn't be asked to go through medical checks.
Atos is paid around £80 million a year by the government. That's over £200,000 a day. The government won't tell us what targets they've set Atos, nor will they tell the Liberal Democrat MP Danny Alexander.
Feels to me like it's being financially motivated when it should be motivated by the welfare of the individuals and the need actually to try and help people back into work. It isn't delivering either objective at the moment. What I think is going on is that the whole public finances are under enormous pressure. The government have decided that they want to make as many savings as they can, and clearly failing people for ESA tests and ensuring they can claim job seekers allowance instead is a way of saving really quite substantial amounts of money. And it looks like the testing process is being incentivised to say no to people who frankly should be getting this benefit.
If you think you've been wrongly assessed, you can take the decision to an independent appeal tribunal. The outcome of appeals is also one indication of whether people may be being assessed as fit to work when they're not. Nationally, more than a third of people who appeal the decision win, and the Ministry of Justice told us that a further 44,000 patients are waiting for their appeal. This backlog means it's taking months to have an appeal heard. You might expect people who were originally turned down for ESA to be unhappy about it, but nearly all of the 7 claimants we interviewed have now won their appeals, so they feel it's the initial medical which isn't fair, and they've had to go through a stressful appeal to prove it. Let's hear from Cheryl again. It's the day of her appeal. She says she was portrayed as an internet shopper at her original medical, rather than someone with a chronic illness.
I don't know what to expect, to be honest. I really don't know what to expect. I've made up my mind to be optimistic. I feel very, very nervous. I know I have a strong case, but there's always a chance that they'll find against me. Just have to wait and see how it goes.
It's clear that the appeals process is slowing down, and so you've actually got a system where taxpayers are paying an additional financial premium for a system that's going wrong, and individuals are suffering financially while they wait for the decisions to be taken.
Hi, my name is Margaret, and I understand you're here to complete an employment support allowance form.
We've all had to fill in complicated forms before, and personally I don't fully understand this one. Nor do some of the clients who come here to the Drumchapel Law and Money Advice Centre, and their future depends on it. The senior solicitor here is Amanda Pringle. She had high hopes for ESA.
In theory, it's a good idea and it should work properly, but our experience on a day-to-day basis is that it isn't. And what's happening is our resources are being taken up going to appeal on far too many appeals. And if anything, the triangle is the wrong way round. There's not enough people being helped at the early stages, and the sifting process is not correct. Therefore, you're ending up with far too many appeals, and that's a drain on our resources.
By the time they've requested medical reports, it costs hundreds of pounds of taxpayers' money for the staff here to put someone through an appeal. But they believe it's worth it when you consider what their client is going through.
I have a lot of physical pain. I often am not able to sit upright for very long.
I can't stop the erratic thoughts that I get. I'm frightened of what might happen.
I have pains shooting up the back of my neck, into the back of my head. Pains shooting down my arm, into 3 fingers.
My arm's shaking all the time. If it shakes uncontrollably and relentlessly, it gets painful.
Dr. Chris Johnston is dealing with this stress at the sharp end.
Anecdotally, I've had several people who've not known they could appeal, have accepted the judgment, become more unwell. One of them ended up in a mental hospital because it became so unwell. Other ones have had further physical problems afterwards. But even for those people who do know how to appeal, these are not people who are the sort of stereotypical benefit cheats. These are people who've got physical problems, who would like to work, who don't want to be labelled a drain on society. And for them to have to go through an appeals process, it can be very, very damaging for them.
Mental health is one area the new system was meant to take greater account of.
I have panic attacks and I get anxious need to go home and go to bed and stop all the horrible, I have horrible thoughts.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Might not be able to get up or get dressed or eat, being very tearful, being angry, being anxious.
Christine and Claire were both helped through their appeals by the Citizens Advice Bureau. Margaret Hinstridge is one of their advisors based in GP surgeries.
We think, for example, that mental health patients are almost all failing the medical, so we get the same result for people who are mildly depressed and off their work for the first time and people who have serious, protracted, long-term psychiatric illness. They're all coming through our doors having been awarded no points.
If the computer really does say no, have we actually become the Little Britain of comedy fame? Except for Margaret and her clients, it's very serious.
The tribunal service completely overruled the DWP, and according to them, effectively the DWP couldn't have been more wrong.
People obviously, if they're turned down for benefit, and they will say that they didn't say that, and this was the first problem we had last February. But it very quickly became apparent that everybody was saying the same thing, and again, they can't really all be wrong. They were all reporting that they weren't listened to, that the reports were factually inaccurate. People who work expect that we have a welfare state and a health service that will look after them if they suddenly find they have a serious diagnosis of ill health. And what we find with Employment Support Allowance are people in that acute phase of sometimes very serious illnesses being put through inappropriate medicals, called in for medicals when they shouldn't be. Sometimes I understand asked to attend medicals when they're inpatients in a hospital. Government were very keen to point out that there were vast numbers of people on incapacity benefit that they felt shouldn't be. Their legislation so far is only tackling new claimants. So the people who are undergoing these examinations are the newly sick, not the people who have been on incapacity benefit for many years.
Christine and Claire both won their appeals. This means they both get the financial help. Claire is deemed too ill to even consider work at this time, so she simply gets paid the benefit. Christine was put into a category called the Work-Related Activity Group. This group is the key to making ESA work. It means she's eligible for both financial and practical support to help her to get back to work. So the work that you've been doing with this outside company, has that been helpful?
Not really, because at the moment my appeal was in October and I haven't heard from them since, so I haven't done any work with them at the moment.
There may be people listening to this who might be wanting to say, you know, you're young, just pull your socks up effectively. What would you say to that?
I'm trying. I work very hard at getting myself better. Recovery is a process. It's hard work. Willpower alone does not combat an illness that has a biological root. It's brain chemistry. I can't really just for wanting to. I can't combat it, and it takes time.
So are enough people being put in this work-related activity group, which means that they do get that support to get them back to work?
We haven't seen anybody going into the work-related activity group automatically. The only people that we're seeing going into it are people that we take through the appeal process.
The government says 22% of claimants have been put into the category, which helps them get well enough to return to work. Many of the people you've heard from in this programme say they don't want to be on benefits and plan to go back to work. They feel this work-related activity category is perfect for them because they'll get financial support whilst they're very ill, but also help to manage their condition, getting back to work more quickly.
I was in Boots the other day getting my medicine and there was a sign up. They were looking for somebody for 15 hours a week. And I came home and said to my husband, I wouldn't mind trying that. And he's like, well, you'd be a really good advert for Boots, don't you, with your soft collar and your long stick, wouldn't you? So that was that kind of hit in the head.
You can hear Ian Hanratty's hands shaking as he tries to fill his specially adapted kettle.
If I wear a shirt, sometimes my fingers just don't work and I just can't get my zip down or up.
He was recently diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
I have every intention of